welcome to another episode of the Winning with Shopify podcast with me, your host, Nick Truman. I've got terrible hay fever in the UK, so sorry about my voice. But we've got a very, very exciting topic for today. This is right up my street. So, cup of tea filled out. You've got a nice little lemon tea. I'm recording on my laptop today. You see my lemon tea there? Recording on my laptop today because our office is in boxes in a storage unit, which is provided by one of our clients. I don't have permission to say their name, but as soon as I do, I'll shout them out. But yeah, we're going to be talking about something that's right up my street, which is, I've called it revenue versus profit, ads, revenue versus profit. So let's talk about how people look at advertising. I'm going to focus on Google because that's my world. This applies to Meta and other places. But let's have a little chat today, guys, over a nice little cup of herbal tea. And let's have a conversation about the difference between revenue and profit, why it's important, and actually where a lot of brands are kind of shooting themselves in the foot and shouldn't be. And this is really important. The reason this is so important is I look at hundreds, possibly thousands of brands every year, every 3 or 4 years. And one of the things I see over and over again is there's such a high reliance in terms of the percentage of revenue that comes from advertising. That's not a bad thing. But then brands don't operate like that. And I think we need to, it's certainly something I've learned kind of in more recent years in my career. I'm doing this since 2007. So yeah, heading towards 20 years. Something I've learned in more recent years is that the numbers will tell you everything you need to know. And I've learned that from my FD, Mike. I've learned that from an advisor I've got. And I've learned that from working with so many clients. The numbers will tell you what you need to know. So today we're going to talk about numbers. You will need a pen and a piece of paper if you're going to take this seriously. If you're listening on a treadmill or something else, iPhone notes, pause the treadmill, take a little note, play the treadmill. Everybody needs a little break when they're out on a run at the gym. Anyway, let's talk about this. So let's start with the basics and why this is an issue and where brands I think are going wrong. The first thing is most products that brands sell have different margins. And this is either net or gross margin. Net margin being, okay, the product's worth $100 and it costs us $50 to get. So we've got a net margin of $50 to play with. It's smaller than that because of all the other things that we need to think about. But net margin is you've got that. Gross margin will be, to run the business, it costs us, all our business costs divided by how many products we sold that month or how many products we bought, depending on which way you want to run your accounts. Gross margin takes into account all of that. So you might say we've got an 80% net margin on the product, but after all the business costs, we've got about a 30, maybe 35% margin on that product. But then we've got one product here which costs $20 and it costs us $15 to sort of buy it, get it on the shelf, deliver it, sell it, etc., and then deliver it off the customer, import taxes, blah, 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 blah. So you might find like the lower a product costs, the smaller the margin tends to be. But also like actually having a 20% margin, although it sounds bad in essence, if a product was to cost $5,000, a 20% margin is $1,000. And it's only relative to things like click costs, salaries, running the business. And if you can deliver and sell and deliver to a customer a $5,000 product in actually the same way, let's say it was an item of jewelry, is a good example. Expensive item of jewelry, fairly simple and easy to ship, to deliver, and you could probably get, although a smaller margin, you got a bigger total amount, and the click costs are going to be the same if you were selling like phone cases or something. There are some nuances in click costs, but generally they're all pretty close to about £1 or $1. Some cost quite a bit more, some less. It depends on the margins. It depends on the competition, in click costs. But my first point really is all products have different margins. So why then do people in Google Ads and Meta Ads and other advertising platforms say, we got a 3-to-1 ROI target? And it's like, well, hang on, can we get, and we always ask immediately, can we get your product costs or at least the margins? So if this product costs $100 and it's got a 70% margin, we know we've got $70 to play with. If we're spending more than that, we really are losing here. So flat ROAS doesn't really work. You kind of need to look at the profitability of things now to get a better idea as to what's going on. Quick sip of tea. So an example here is you've got one product, it's got a 50% margin. You've got another product, it's got a 20% margin. The one that's got a 50% margin, you need 2-to-1 net to break even. So half of, if you sell it for $100, 50 was what it cost to get you the product, and you've got to spend $50 or less to sell it. Still not going to make the business profitable, but just the economics of that single product. That's the idea. You've got a 50% margin on it. But the one that's only got a 20% margin, you need to make a 5-to-1 ROI or 500% ROAS. You need $5 back for every 10 you spend. So if that was a $100 product, you can only spend $20 before you've already hit break even to sell that product. So conclusion, most brands we talk to are making a loss on probably a bigger percentage than they are ready to accept or hear from us. They're probably making a loss on a bigger percentage of their products or a wider range of their products just on advertising alone than they actually realize. It's the sometimes it's called the 80-20 rule. There's this kind of magical philosophy that's often very close to reality that says actually 80% of your revenue is made from 20% of the things you actually do and sell. So if you can stop doing the 80% wasting money and just do more of the 20%, that 80% of revenue is going to grow. The business is going to grow quite nice and quickly there. So there's a few solutions to this problem. Some you're already writing down going, I need to check the margins in all my products. You're like, correct. If that's one thing you're going to take away and you've only got, 5.5 minutes to listen to this podcast today, that's your learning. Go and look at your margins, sort your ads out. Bosh. I don't think I've ever said that in the podcast. I say bosh quite a lot. Sounds really unprofessional, but like bosh means yes, done. Solutions. So number one is get better margins. So talk to your suppliers and say, look, we're only getting a small margin on this thing. So actually we need a bigger margin on this. Second, I say get better margins. There's multiple ways of doing that, but one of them is talk to supplier, and I'll come on to a few more in a minute. The other thing you can do as a solution to this, the second thing is you can split and test campaigns accordingly. So actually, if you manage your campaigns in a way of saying, these products are on 20% margin, these are on 50, these are on 70, and kind of split it into like three chunks. You can still have multiple campaigns within each chunk, but now you're targeting based on margin, and the campaign in most advertising platforms is where you set the target. So if you say the campaign target is 4-1 and some of your products, so that's 25% margin, but some of your products only have a 10% margin and you're trying to get a 4-1, that's wrong. It's bad. You're losing money on those. You need 1,000% margin to make break even on a 10. Sorry, you need 1,000 to 1 ROI. 1,000%, 10 to 1 ROI, 1,000%. So 1,000% is ROAS, return on ad spend, and the 10 to 1 ROI is return on investment. They're the same metric, one's as a percentage, and they're both net. So just looking at price of product versus advertising cost. So again, if you've only got a 10% margin and you're going for an ROI of 4, ROI of 4 says 25% margin. So it's 2.5 times where you're profitable. So you're making a 2.5 times loss if you just hit target on those items. You see the problem. So splitting campaigns accordingly is really important. It's not as simple as just splitting them. If you have, say you had 4 different types of leather shoe for men, it's going to be the same keyword. So having one in one campaign, one in another, one in another, one in another, based on the different margins you've got, what you're doing is you're actually confusing Google a little bit now, or Meta, in terms of saying, probably more so on Google because it's the same keyword. And Google will go, well, which of those 4 campaigns do you want me to show you for that keyword? It will probably choose the one with the lowest ROI target because it's like, I can spend more at that rate. And also somebody might still click on that product, the one with the big margin. They'll click on the big margin product with the lower ROI target to achieve profitability. They'll click on that and go and buy a smaller, lower margin product elsewhere. So with ads, you need to look at what are we advertising versus what people are actually buying. So if they land on an expensive item and that expensive item product page recommends lots of cheaper items, your website's not working, is it? Let's be honest. Like, you want to make money. You want to sell the most expensive or highest margin items, not always most expensive. You want to sell the highest margin items, the ones that are going to make you the most profit, the ones that are going to sell really easily and have good conversion rates. You want to sell those. You don't want someone landing on that and then finding a really cheap one where it's like, actually, we're just break even on that product. And if you're just break even, you probably shouldn't have it on your store at all. Economically, that's a terrible thing to have a break even product. And that's break even before you've even spent anything or run the business. So you know you're going to make a loss selling that product. So the second thing, split and test campaigns accordingly, but you need to be really strategic about how you split and test those. Get that wrong, ruins everything. And you might, like I made the point right at the start, you might not even know. You might think ROI is really good. It's actually really bad. The third thing, you can increase your product costs. You can input your product costs into Shopify. So what the product costs you, and that then gives you net profitability. Depending on how you're running your campaigns in Google Ads and other platforms, you might then actually have some data to say, I can split test now based on the profitability margin because I've tagged all my products or I have that information in there. So within my feed now, I can tag products using the custom labels and they can all go into specific campaigns based on margins. So now we're being way more savvy and much smarter in the way that you're approaching these things. Number 4, you also, I think, part of the solution here, you need to factor in some margin to run the business. So what you need to work out is they're called fixed costs. What am I, and I have this for my agency, what are all my fixed costs at the agency? So what are we allocating to marketing right now? What are we allocating to salaries across every single person? What suppliers are we paying right now on a regular fixed basis? I've mentioned the much office costs. Consultants that we work with, our finance guys, subscriptions we pay for like ChatGPT, tools we use, all that kind of stuff. We want to factor in all those fixed costs and go, the business just needs this much money per month to operate. So for us to make that much money per month, we need this much margin, this much kind of net product sold to run the business. Now we're at break even. So there might be so a lot of businesses come back and say, look, we can spend 10, 20, 40% of all of our revenue on marketing. And they agree what that percentage is. So a lot of businesses just go, we got a 50% margin. So 25% of the whole business we're going to spend on all advertising. But that includes the cost of the marketing team and everything else. And we've got another 25% to run our fixed costs in the business. But all agencies, advertising costs, it's got to come out of the 25%, which means we need to make probably like a 4-to-1 ROI target. Again, these are rough maths, and where it falls down is the first thing I said, which is the product margins are different per product. Even if you think they're the same, we've had companies before say, "Oh, just assume it's 40% margin, like that's nice and safe." And then we get into the nuances and go, our best-selling 20 products that are 80% of our sales, so 80% of the products we're selling have way worse margins than that, like less than half. We're just losing money on Google Ads, but everyone thinks it's a success. Don't scale a problem. I say it to clients a lot. Don't scale a problem. Fix the problem, then we scale. So factor in those business running costs. So 4 things you need to focus on for growth then. I love numbers. So these are 4. The first one is lower product production costs. Here comes the caveat, whilst increasing quality. That is not an oxymoron. They are not opposites. You will find with most of your suppliers, and I've bought my own products and sold my own products in the Shopify store before. I've had a play in this world that you guys live in. It's a lovely world. It's very different to what I do, which is why I don't do it anymore. But if you talk to a supplier and say, how many units do I have to buy to start getting some significant discounts? And then they might say, yeah, you're paying us $10 per unit right now. Quick sip of tea. So if you're watching this on video, the reason I say quick sip of tea is anyone listening at home is like, hang on, has it stopped? If I say quick sip of tea, you know there's going to be a pause. You can have a sip of tea as well. But yeah, say you're paying $10 per unit, so per item that you're purchasing in at the moment. They might say, right now you're buying about 1,000 units a month and they're costing $10 each. So it's $10,000 a month. If you double that to $20,000 a month, your unit cost would drop from $10 to $7.50. And you might take a view and go, do you know what? We're selling phone cases, or we're selling sunglasses like I used to, or we're selling pens, something that doesn't go off, it doesn't expire. And we've been running this business 4 years now. Let's borrow some money as some investment at a lower percentage rate than the saving we've got by buying more products in. And without changing anything to the customer, your product costs have dropped by 25%. They've gone from $10 to $7.50. I would also go back and negotiate. Say someone else has said they can make the same product, the same quality for this much. I really think you guys should rethink the pricing here. Like, could we come to an agreement? Or actually, here's another thing that some of my clients have done with product sourcing. They've agreed, even though they're not paying for it today, they've agreed to buy a minimum order quantity for like the next 3 years. They know they're going to sell that amount of product. And over those 3 years, they're allowed to tweak the design, the colors, and some of the variants. But they've already agreed, like, we're going to buy 20,000 units a month for the next 3 years. And these guys might take a view of it and say, all right, well, we're going to give you a 20% discount if you sign a contract agreeing to provide those. And you might even give them favorable terms and say, right now we pay you 60 days after we've received the stock. Now we're going to pay up front. Can we have a 10% discount? 10% discount means you've just increased your margin by more than 10% because you factor in, that's the buy cost, factor in the sell cost. There's loads you can do with product sourcing. And if you're starting to do some of those things, you can also improve the quality and say, do you know what? We would like a trial run of this product. What kind of deal could you give us on a trial run of that product? The better the deal you could give us on a trial run of that product, the more of them we can sell and the better we'll do long term. So the first thing, look at your product production and try and lower the cost of that. One more solution I want to give to that, and I'm not going to suggest who because we're trying to get them on the podcast. So I'm deliberately not say who they are. But if you're listening to this, come on the show. People will be interested in this. there are companies around the world that have warehouses at some of the major airports where your products are manufactured. So these guys in particular have lots of warehousing in Shanghai within like 10 miles of the airport. It's a lot cheaper to bulk buy product, get discount on it. You can use that discount, for example, to store the product in Shanghai and then just sit on the smallest amount of quantity that you possibly need to in your European or Pan American warehouse. So you can have a much smaller warehouse. Go, we're just going to sit on like 10 units of each thing because every single week we've got another box of them coming across from Shanghai now. And the warehousing cost in Shanghai is next to nothing compared to what it was in the US. So we've saved on warehousing costs. It's called sweating the asset. Find creative ways to make your overheads and costs cheaper to get your product to customer. Some companies now will actually send the product straight from Shanghai straight into the product, the customer's house in the US, in Europe. And again, doing things like that, it makes you a little bit more immune to import taxes. You don't have to pay the import tax until you bring the product in. There are people who have warehouses on the US-Mexico border as well to do this. It's just a cheaper, smarter way of storing products. Second thing that you can do for growth, if you really want to start increasing growth and increasing that margin, the second thing, businesses are terrified to do this and they should be wary of this, but I think companies are too scared to do it. And I've seen more positives than negatives of companies doing this. Put your product price up. Just whack the price up. If it's a popular product, we had initially just 2 different pairs of bamboo sunglasses we were selling, and one of them were bamboo arms and then black plastic front. The other one was a bamboo front with polarized glasses, whereas the other ones were just UV, I can't remember the number now, UV 400 or something, UV protection lenses that were black. And then we also had plastic at the front, bamboo at the sides. They were £20, the other one was 40. They were both 20. They actually cost us the same. Would you believe? I think it was $1 more to bring in one that was polarized. The actual front being wooden was like absolutely fine. What was amazing though is they started at pretty much, I think it was like £22 and £20. And the black one, we kept it, and we kept a really low amount of stock because it made the polarized fully bamboo ones look more expensive. Bamboo is a cheaper material than plastic. Well, it was when we were buying them. It was a cheaper material. Bamboo was cheaper than plastic. Plastic has to go up to high heat, be melted into the right mold. Bamboo can grow up to 1 foot a day in China. Yeah, I did the marketing. So we were talking about how much of a valuable renewable resource bamboo is. If anyone's ever had bamboo in their garden, you know how much of a disaster and nightmare the thing is. Well, if you're trying to grow bamboo to make products out of it, it's fantastic. They use it for scaffolding in some countries. We use only metal here in the UK. I don't know how safe it is, but just to show, it's a really strong material. But you see how we just kept upping the price of this thing. So my second thing is, don't be scared to up the price, especially when you're small. Less people know who you are. And you can even say on the site, this price is going up. It's currently $40. It's going up to $50 in 3 days. Build some urgency. Get some more people buying. That might lower your advertising costs to get someone to buy it. Then the price goes up. Bang, new higher price. Never mention it was ever at the old price. Just be at the new price now. Keep increasing that. While costs have been going up in all countries around the world at the moment, especially in Western society, costs are going up, costs are getting more expensive. People are not increasing their product prices at the same rate. What a fail. You're just eating into your margins. Sometimes you just do it, no one complains, conversion rate stays the same, and actually you're literally just getting more money for selling the same products now. You might find conversion rate drops a little bit. We had one client who they doubled all their prices. No warning, overnight, just went bang, it's now double. It was the kind of thing you would only buy once. You wouldn't buy it regularly. We just doubled the prices. We had less than a 50% drop in sales. And get this, the amount of people that talked about quality, product quality in the reviews increased dramatically. So we were still selling more than half. We were making double the money, sending out like just over, I think it was about 60% of the sales we kept. So now we were only shipping 60% of the products, but revenue was now up quite dramatically. And again, we just massively reduced the size of the business. Now we just invested more in marketing and increased the sales at the higher price. Genius. There are so many case studies of this. If something is premium, it has to cost a lot, or it's clearly not premium. Premium products are not cheap. So have a real think about that. Quick sip of tea. Improve your website and marketing to improve AOV. I know this is really basic. I could do day-long seminars, possibly week-long seminars on average order value and all the things you could test and how to work out what to test. But you need to get customers adding another product to cart. Either the notification they get when they add a product, offer insurance if the product's worth over a certain amount. That's another value add. Once someone's completed their order, give them a discount on another item and a time limit of like, you've got 20 minutes or half an hour to add this item and you can go and pay for it. There's no additional delivery cost. We'll send it out with their first item or the items you've already purchased, but you can have 25% off anything on our site because we know marketing costs us more than 25% or 10% off something. And again, use AI to recommend what products. It's so smart. And if you get, I don't know, 30, 40% of people adding another product at checkout, post-purchase and adding it in, you've now had 2 transactions, you've got 1 delivery cost. So simple, 1 customer to deal with, 1 item to sell, 1 lot of packaging to package those products up. It's really, really smart, really simple. There's loads of ways to do this. And then the other one, I talk about this so much, so I'm just going to do a very, very light cover on this, but lifetime value. If somebody buys twice from you and the second order came through email, or just because, I've got some on the, actually I won't show them. I haven't got permission from those brands. I've got some on my desk right now where products have arrived and they have like a leaflet in saying, here's 10% of your next order. If you're making less than a 10 to 1 ROI, 10% of your next order, genius. It's cheaper than marketing, as much as I'm a marketing guy and I want the marketing budget. But if everybody starts making a second, third, fourth order from you, you've got that margin now because they're making those orders and you're not paying for the advertising, which is a really stable business. If something goes wrong with your advertising and it's driving 75% of everything that is coming into your business, you have a very, very unsafe business. 1 credit card issue, Google gets confused and disables your entire account, which does happen. Bang, you've got problems, right? Do these 4 things well. So lower product costs and increase quality at the same time. Increase product prices, even just a little bit, just for now. Stretch AOV through better marketing and website optimization. And number 4, stretch the margin through lifetime value as much as possible. It's not the product margin, get those repeat orders, and that the margins that you're making per customer from customer acquisition cost to customer value is being stretched. Do all of that and you can start chucking more money into advertising and you're doing it profitably. There we go. We got the word out. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Back again on Friday. We've recorded so many episodes in advance now. So excited as well. One of my clients is coming on to show off their amazing knitwear soon as well. I was wearing the jumper, but it was affecting, I haven't got my normal microphone today. It's affecting the microphone on the zip. So I'll be wearing that in an episode soon as well with my client, Islands Eye. They're absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for tuning in. You guys have been great. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Go and join our newsletter and get involved in Growth Vault. Coming out in September. It's going to be super exciting. So go and sign up to that. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you join us again.